Long before World War I, most of Europe looked down upon the Middle East because the Central Powers had more military, political, and economic advances. They took every opportunity to gain territory within the Middle East. The territory held by these differing nations is shown in the map above. I will be focusing on the land of Britain and the Ottoman Empire. Prior to World War I, whilst Britain occupied part of the Middle East, their main goals were to protect the accessibility to trade routes in the Eastern Mediterranean, maintaining stability in Iran and the Persian Gulf, as well as guaranteeing the Ottoman Empire was staying where Britain thought they had belonged. At the time, the Ottoman Empire ruled the majority of the north coast of Africa and west to Egypt and the Holy Lands. They had a strong navy that ruled the Mediterranean seas, and the alliance of the Ottoman Empire was sought after by many European nations.
Now on to during World War I. Throughout 1916, the British and the other Allied powers were fighting the Ottoman Empire, and they ended up needing some help, so they asked the Arabs to revolt, which they had been wanting to for some time leading up to World War I, against the Ottoman Empire to distract the Ottoman forces. This was when the McMahon-Hussein Correspondance was taking place, which promised the Arabs significant land in return for revolting against the Ottoman Empire. But as you can see in the modern-day political cartoon, this is not what happened. The Sykes-Picot Agreement, which was being written at the same time as the McMahon-Hussein Correspondence, was the true plans to divide up the Middle East and wanted to give the Arabs significantly less land than was promised to them in the McMahon-Hussein Correspondence. They were betrayed by the British and French, who only wanted to gain power in the Middle East.
Post-World War I, specifically on January 6, 1920, Prince Faisal signed an agreement with the French Prime Minister Georges Clemenceau, which stated that Syrian countries would unite as independent governing nations under British mandates. This is significant to show that Syrian countries had original willingness to go along with the terms of the agreement when they understood that it was for the purpose of allowing the countries to have independence, self-governance, and self-determination, when in reality, France and other European countries were using the Syrian countries as a gateway into the region to confront the Ottoman Empire. This contrasts when later in 1921, King Hussein displays an extreme stubbornness with signing the Treaty of Sèvres. This shows that self-determination was there and prominent in the Syrian countries, but this self-determination was not nearly as influential as Britain and France's plans and other plans for other nations, which ultimately were to get in contact with the Ottoman Empire and tear down the dominant empire.
In conclusion, self-determination played a minimal role in the McMahon and Hussein Correspondence. This is evident through the political and imperialist perspectives of Britain and the Allies, who bargained the same piece of land to both the Arabs and the Jews in order to break up the, quote, Islamic bloc in the Middle East. This was so that they could have control over those territories and invade the Ottoman Empire. They only appealed to either group's call for independence so that they could do business with them. On the right is another proposed land division by Henry McMahon, which would have given the Arabs significantly more land than what they actually received after the agreements were exposed by Russia during their Bolshevik Revolution. The Allies' politically driven goals were not unknown to the rest of Europe, however. The political cartoon on the left highlights how, in most peace agreements made after World War I, superpowers were not as concerned with helping new countries prosper, but rather with grabbing land for themselves and maintaining power in foreign territories.